Good afternoon, class. This is Miss Green, and today we are going to start a new unit on polynomials. I know it looks like a big word, it looks like something hard that we're going to learn, but hey, we're learning to love math, and this is a new objective that we are going to master. So when we look at the word polynomial, um, think about what it means. What does it mean as it pertains to math? Well, I'm going to help you out. So the word polynomial is broken up into two words. The first word we have is poly, and then we have nomials or nomial. The word poly, what do you think the word poly means? Think about it. Poly. Going to help you out. It actually means many. Many what? Let's look at the second word, nomial. Nomial. Many what? Think about math and what nomial means. It's not numbers, it is terms. So when we're looking at the word polynomial, excuse me, this word means many terms. Many terms. So we know what the meaning of polynomial is. What does a polynomial consist of? What can a polynomial have? That's something that we're going to learn today. Now that I've given you a few seconds, I ask what are the three things that polynomials can have? Well, the first thing, constants. Constants can be numbers, um, such as 3, -20, 4, 7, 5, 1/2, any type of numbers. Constants also have variables. Variables are letters, any type of letters that are represent something that is not a number. The most common variables that we use or we're going to be using is x and y. And exponents. Exponents are degrees, like a number to a certain degree, 2 to the power of 2 to the second degree. So again, as we go ahead and look at constants, excuse me, we said that constants can be any number. 3, 5, can also be a negative number, -7. It could be a fraction, 1/2, 20, -1. So these are examples of constants. A variable, again, we said it's a letter, and the most common variables that we're going to be using during this lesson is x and y and exponents. So an example of an exponent is if we have y to the second power. If you look at that exponent, then the number 2 here is the exponent. And what's also very, very, very important to know when we are looking at polynomials and exponents, only and only 0, 1, 2, and 3. These are the only exponents allowed when using polynomials. Now, let's recap before we move a little bit further and I give you an example of a polynomial. So we know that polynomial means many terms. Polynomials can have constants, which are numbers. They could be positive or negative or even in fraction form. Variables, which are letters that represent numbers, which is most common, x and y, and exponents. And what's most important? That exponents used when using polynomials are only 0, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to give you a quick example of a polynomial, and we are going to identify the constant, the variables, and the exponent. All right, so we have the problem here at the bottom, and we want to be able to identify the constant, the variable, and the exponent. So let's first look at the constant. Remember, constants are numbers, so we want to be careful. And I am going to give a disclosure before we move forward. If we look here, we see that there's a number 2 here. But if we look here, this sign is going to represent an exponent. So we have to be careful when we're looking at our problem. So this is 4xy squared plus 3x minus 5. So let's look. We are going to draw a line to the constant. First constant that you see is what? 4. The next constant that we see, 3. And the last constant that we see, 5. So these are constants. And remember, we did not select 2 because 2 is what? An exponent, which brings us to our next. So we are going to draw a line to our exponent, which is 2. And lastly, we are going to look at our variables, which are letters. So we actually have 2 variables, which is x and y. So we've identified the constants in our problem, the variables in our problems, and our exponent as well in our problem. Now that we have identified what a polynomial is, what can a polynomial have, and provided examples of that, we are now going to talk about types of polynomials. There are 3 main polynomials that we will be working with during this unit. The first one is going to be a monomial. A monomial has one term. So an example of a monomial is 3xy squared. This is the only term that it's using. It has a constant, it has variables, and it also has an exponent. The next type of polynomial that we'll learn about is a binomial. Bi meaning 2, so it has 2 terms. And an example of a binomial would be 5x minus 1. It has 2 constants and it also has a variable. And the last type of polynomial that we will learn about during this unit is a trinomial. Trinomial, 3 terms. An example here would be 3x plus 5y squared minus 3. We have constants, 3, 5, 3, variables, x and y, and we also have an exponent, which is 2. So this is just a brief introduction of polynomials. Moving forward, we would get more in depth and we would go more over what polynomials are and provide examples of polynomials and numbers that are not polynomials. And this is just a start. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this brief introduction of polynomials. And next week, we will begin our actual lesson. Thank you.